So hello everyone, again, welcome to our 23rd virtual orientation session, Let It Go Tips for Family Members. Again, my name is Jennifer Abraham and I'm the graduate intern for new student transition programs here at Seton Hill. I'll be working with you throughout the virtual orientation process, and now it is my honor to turn it over to Seton Hill's Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Rosalie Carpenter.
Thanks, Jennifer. And thank you all for attending this evening. I know that the summer months tend to be very busy between family vacations and work, and just this transition of sending and getting your student ready to go away to college. I've been in Target behind families getting supplies for residence halls, and I know all of the steps that are being held in your household. So I appreciate you all taking the time tonight. As Jen said, my name is Rosalie Carpenter. I just completed my 4th year at Seton Hill, and I have been serving as the Vice President for Student Affairs and Athletics. The scope of my work, how I like to describe that, is I have responsibility for most of the things outside of the classroom. So the orientation program, residence halls, health services, counseling services, diversity and inclusion initiatives, working with our international students, student organizations and engagement, our SGA, our leadership programs, commuter life, anything like that. And of course, our athletic programs. We are a proud home of NCAA Division II student athletics. We have 21 teams and one of the highest GPAs in the PSAC. I'm very proud of that. Our students work very hard, both in the classroom and on the field. So those of you that have incoming student athletes, I look forward to meeting you on the sidelines, as well as that orientation. So I also appreciate those of you that have your cameras on. That is no peer pressure to others, but it is just so nice to see other people, and you're smiling and nodding. And I just want to say thank you and acknowledge that. That is no pressure to anyone else who is driving, walking their dogs, has a mess in the background. We understand Zoom life, so I completely get it, but also just appreciate the folks here in the space. So let me share my screen. I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit about, I've been in student affairs for about 20 years now, and one of the biggest transitions is the first year the student goes to college. Whether you have done this before and have students, have children who have gone to school or gone away, if this is your first student or the last one, with everyone, it's a little different. And coming to Seton Hill is a little different. So a few years ago, I was asked to put together some just thoughts for parents, take them for what they're worth, just some tips, just some experience to share during the transition. Those of you that have done this before, I also invite you to share your experience and tips in transition as well. So that's really what tonight's about. We spend so much time focusing on the student because we love your students. We're excited to have them here, but this is really about you as a parent and as part of the Seton Hill family. How can we help you in this next month or two in the transition? So that's what tonight's about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So here we go. All right. So I'd love to get a sense of who is joining tonight. For how many of you, like I mentioned before, is this your first child to go off to college? Like, just kind of give me like a hand raise. Okay, I see Sandra. That. Oh, okay, good. That's family. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And thanks those of you who are reacting by raising your hands in that function. And if you go to the bottom in reactions, you can do that. For how many of you is this your last student, the last child that you have going to college? Last one. Oh, we've got some new hand raised. Those folks are very excited about that as well. Excellent, excellent. Okay. And then for how many of you is this your first and last? This is your only child. Any of you, this is an only child? Okay. One hand raised. All right, extra tissues for Karen in August for orientation. So first and only. All right, excellent, excellent. Good. It just kind of gives me a sense. Also, how about how many of you will have students who live in the residence halls with us? Living in the residence halls. Give me a raise hands. Okay, nice. Oh, lots. All right. Yeah. Oh, good. So exciting. They're about to share a room with someone they do not know for the first time for many of them. Yes, it is an adventure. It'll be great. It'll be great. Okay, good. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to wait for those to dissipate because I have one more. I also would love to know families of student athletes. Families of student athletes. Oh, good. Okay, good. Lots. Yes. Excellent. All right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So thank you all so much for that. Just helps give me a sense of first and last and everything in between. We never forget about the middle children and all those kinds of things. So I want you parents to think a little bit about if this ever happened for you, when with your own parent or guardian that you kind of moved from them being your parent to them seeing you as a partner, as an adult. When did that happen for you? Did it ever happen for you? I'm 46 years old. I have a doctorate degree. For my father, I am still the child. I will always be the child. But for my mother, it was different, right? So when did that happen for you? And that's different for everyone, and it's different per child. So I just want you to kind of think back, is this a shift for you from parent to partner? This is also a really mutual process for you and the student in this transition, potentially from parent to partner. And this is going to be a difficult transition, especially this year. We thought last year students were going and families were going to have a different transition from when the COVID pandemic started in March. So many students moved online. So many families have been together more than ever before in the home life, based on working from home and taking classes from home and activities at a minimum. This is going to be an extra transitional year from students who are going from living at home, being surrounded by family all the time, for better or worse, right? to now moving into a residence hall facility with all of these strangers, for better or worse in that year. So we're very sensitive to the normal transition that it takes for college students and families, but also especially this year for COVID. So perfect. Let me advance the slide. So here's what we know about your students that are coming to us, and you know this too. This generation wants convenience and they want it now, right? They want a charger like everywhere. They want an ATM on every corner. They want gas stations here. They want Wi-Fi like on the beach when you're up in a mountain camping. Like they want it now. We know that. So we are prepared for that. They have high expectations and have a high level of service. We have taught them that, haven't we? So we have to deliver on that as an institution. They are enamored with technology. And we know that. So we give them laptops. We give them all the same technological platform to use. It is one of the best things I've ever been a part of in my career in higher ed. It is so helpful for all of our students to be able to have the same information, to be able to print to the same platform. Everything works. There's no transition issues. It's great. And they do something with their technology 86 times a day on average. Anyone want to render a guess of what they do 86 times a day? That is a lot of times. There's 24 hours. So that is multiple times in an hour. I see some of the families talking this out. It is literally just checking their phone, just checking it to see if any notification, 86 times a day. And some of you are like, that seems a little low. But you know, for some of us, it is amazing. They have access to so much information, so much knowledge, so much social networking. And our question sometimes is, are they analyzing the information they have access to? So that's one of the important things that we try to work with them on, is critical thinking and all of that. What's also great about this generation, Generation Z, right? Your students are not millennials. This is Generation Z. They are very we-centric. They move from I to we. They are very empathetic. They are very accepting. This generation is so compassionate, it almost can overwhelm them too. They can be overwhelmed by concern with other people. I had a student stop in my office after the high-rise collapse in Florida, if you happen to see that a few weeks ago, so concerned about these folks. It was amazing. So that's what we know about your students, very compassionate. We also know they're used to getting very high grades, right? So back when many of us went to school, well, this is probably a little bit older than that, but very few students got A's. Now, 41% of students, the lowest grade they're getting is an A minus, right? That's going to transition in college. And that's something you need to think about as well as parent, because you have expectations in your house. Remember what grade is average, that is C. So we're taking all of these really intelligent, smart students who have graduated top 10, top 20% of their class, putting them in one classroom at Seton Hill. And at some point, the bell curve has to change where there has to be an average. So for many students, they will get their very first C on a test or on a paper, and that will be a shift for some of them. I see some parents like, oh God, this is traumatizing. It may happen, it's okay. So how do they learn from that? And how do they continue to improve study skills or writing skills? They're also more connected, but also more isolated, right? Not just through COVID, but just in general. This generation has sometimes some social development issues. They don't like to talk to people, right? Like we know the tops of their heads really well because of their technology, but it's like, say hi to Aunt Susan, right? Like we have to encourage them to sometimes talk to people. Some of them are so friendly, they never meet a stranger. They talk to everyone, but many of them, they're highly social networked and have weaker face-to-face skills. And that is something with our small class sizes at Seton Hill, we really work on. We ask them to engage with us. We ask questions, we talk back, we do a lot of small group discussions. They will not be hiding. I think our biggest class is like 42 people. They're not hiding in classrooms of 600. They are in, classes of 15, 20, 25. So that's really good. It helps them find their voice. It helps them build confidence and get more comfortable with those kinds of things. Also, though, with social media, they have lost the psychological space to make mistakes. And that's really hard. I think back to when I was in college, and for many of us in high school and college, we didn't have social media the way it is now. Not everything that was done was captured and put out for everybody to react to. And we take social media very seriously. So it's very important for our students to represent themselves and the value of the institution in that regard. But we also recognize they've lost that space to make mistakes and try to help them through that. So just a little bit about the profile of your students and how we try to account for that as they're coming into the institution. Here's what we also know. They're a little more immature, a little more coddled, and a little more protected than some of us, right? Like we didn't go out, a lot of this generation has not skinned their knees. You are good parents. You've given them elbow pads and shin pads and helmets on their tricycles. You don't let them ride down the hills. Like you are good parents. But sometimes, and this will be a metaphor, if a student hasn't skinned their knee before, when they come to college, it's going to happen, right? So for many of them, they're going to have some challenges that they've never faced before when they come to school, because we've done such a good job as parents protecting them from that. They haven't had to work through some of the things that they will very quickly when they're here. We joked a little bit about roommates. They're about to share a 10 by 10 space with a stranger they've never met before for the next 10 months. Like that's not easy. I don't know how many of you share a living space with another person. I do. I've been married for 23 years. It is a life skill, right? We want our students to learn how to share a space, but many of them have not done that before. So chances are they're going to skin their knees this year. So this is really a little bit about how do we kind of help them through that. So I want to quickly play a video for you that talks a little bit about our philosophy of helping students up the escalator. So let me see if I can get my technology to work, and we'll watch like a 45-second clip.
That's not good.
Need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody. Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
No, there's not enough left to do. That's it. Hello?
Hmm. It's still there. I'm sorry, folks. I got a message. Jen and I were having some behind the scenes technical communication that you could not see the escalator video. Is that correct? Darn it all. Could you hear it at least? Yes. Okay. So if I were to do impromptu acting out, here's what happened. Two adults on an escalator, stuck. If you heard them, they said, it's okay. Someone will come for us. And then the woman says, I don't need this today. And they said, there's two people stuck on the escalator and I need some help. So why in the world would I share this video with you? The moral of the story is, how do two people get stuck on an escalator, right? Sometimes when your student calls home, you easily know the solution to that, right? If you were seeing the video, you would have said, what? Just walk up the steps, right? But somehow two adults got stuck on an escalator. And that kind of goes to the point before about skinning our knees, right? Is that oftentimes if your student calls home, or right, they're really going to call, like they text you that something is going wrong, you can often easily see the solution. And we can often easily see the solution. We work really hard to not give the solution. And that can sometimes be frustrating. And I want to share that philosophy with you all, because you may get a text message at some point that said, I went to go talk to that lady and she wasn't very helpful. And oftentimes what that means is we did not solve the problem for them. Right? We ask them questions. We ask them, like, potentially if it's a roommate situation or they are having an issue in a class, we try to work through with them how they can potentially solve the problem. So sometimes for students, again, who have been always got A's, didn't always have to study, didn't have to put work in, those kinds of things. Sometimes when they struggle at first at school and they come for help, they want us to fix it. And we work really hard to not fix it because we don't want them to be 35 years old and stuck on an escalator. Does that make sense? So if you ever get a call and your student's like, hey, I went to Res Life and they didn't help me, ask them a few questions about that. What did that solution look like to you? And we'll talk a little bit about that. But oftentimes we have asked them to follow up and do some next steps that they may or may not be wanting to do. However, if it is a situation where it's like, my faucet is still leaking and I've talked to them like 3 times about it, certainly pick up the phone and call me. Like, I want to hear that stuff. Or if a student ever feels like, I did go try to get help and I have taken the next steps and I still have an issue that I need assistance with, absolutely pick up the phone or email and call me, and we'll talk that through for your student. That's really important to us. But I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of that situation. So I'm sorry that technology didn't work and my acting was probably horrible, but I think you get the point of how that works. So let me go back to sharing my screen briefly with you about that, and then we can continue to move forward. Also, please pop anything into the chat that you have. So
Rosalie, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. We just had a question in the chat saying, would you be willing to post your number and email in the chat after?
yeah, absolutely. As soon as I stop sharing my screen, I can post that, or Jen, feel free to go ahead and post my email and office number, and you can absolutely do that. It's on the bottom of my email if you don't know it by heart. Feel free to do that. So absolutely, call me anytime. So what could happen, right? You have raised really wonderful students. They are academically capable. They are accepted to the institution. So really, like, what could happen during this first kind of semester in the transition? They could have roommate conflicts. We talked a little bit about that. They might have heartbreak. How many of them are trying to go into college in long distance relationships? How many of them will be in long distance relationships? Anyone? Well, isn't that a generational situation too? Their like commitment level is different. There's a lot of, okay, 1, 2, okay, a couple of you. Thanks for jumping in there. Nice. So there may be some heartbreak in that transition of going from long distance relationship to school. They also may have their first relationship in college, or relationship in college that might not, end the way they had hoped. First academic disappointment or failure. We talked a little bit about the first C. I don't know how many of your students are planning to major in sciences. It is extraordinarily challenging. We prepare students for medical school and optometry school and dental school and physical therapy school, and it is very challenging here. So just know that they may feel challenged, especially if they have always had it a little bit where they've studied, but they've not had to work as hard. They're going to feel like they're not as smart as they thought they were. That is not the case. It's just very fast. And they'll catch on and their faculty will work with them. But first academic disappointment may happen. Homesickness will happen. They don't always tell you. They miss things that sometimes we don't think about. Like, I remember a student who was from Central New York and like was really bummed when her family went apple picking. And she's like, it's not even like the apples, but it's something like we've done as a family for all these years. And I just like, am really sad that I miss it. And it's hard too, because of social media, right? Lives go on and you're like posting stuff and they're so happy, but it also makes them really sad. Also, I'll tell you, if you're parents of a young man, they often also don't tell you that they miss you, but they miss you. They miss you. They won't feel well. Okay, if I could give you one tip, please do yourselves a favor and pack your student like a little first aid kit, like anything that you would normally give them when they don't feel well. So again, I may see one of our students in the elevator, in the hallway, and I'm like, hey, you don't look so good. And a student could say, yeah, I'm not feeling great. Like, and I said, well, what do you normally do when you're at home? And they're like, I don't know. My mom gives me like the 2 blue pills and some ginger ale, like, if that's Advil, like, please pack them some Advil, like whatever home remedies you use, please send them with a little box of it. Help them know how their medical insurance works. We have a nurse practitioner and 2 registered nurses on campus. We have hours 6 days a week, but sometimes it's late at night or something we cannot do for them and they need to go to urgent care or something like that. Make sure they have their insurance cards with them. And also, this is just a plug for their immunizations. And if they're getting COVID vaccination, please have that uploaded. Or if they do an exemption waiver, please have that uploaded and approved as well. So help them get ready for when they don't feel well, because it will happen. Here's also one of the things that happens, and I'm always fascinated by this. They are overwhelmed and bored at the same time. And so they'll like text you with like how much they have to do and how much schoolwork they have. And then like the next text is like, and I have nothing to do. And there's nothing to, and you're like, wait a second, you just told me all the things you have to do. So they're overwhelmed and bored at the same time. There's so much to do on campus and around the area. So, but that will happen. Also, a common transition is understanding living on a budget. So I actually worked with a senior a week or two ago who did not have a bank account. He had been using like a prepaid Visa card. So we actually opened him a bank account for the first time. So a couple of things in regards to a budget. There are probably students at the institution that have more means than your student, and probably students that have less means than your student. The only way for your student to know their means is to have a conversation with them. Some students think money magically appears in their checking account and on their debit card, and they just like wave their phone and do the Apple Pay, and it's like magic. Some of them have been working since they were 13 years old and have done and saved and know every penny. I think it's really helpful for families to have conversations about what they can expect from you if you haven't had that, if they should get a job on campus, if they should get a job locally, but living on a budget is important. The other thing I always put in there is laundry. So what's our school color? Red. We give students lots of free things at the beginning of school, including like shirts and stuff like that. So if they have never done laundry before, I hope that you give them a quick laundry lesson before the entire budget is blown because they have pink clothing. So help the students help themselves and make sure that they do laundry and understand how to do laundry. And the good thing is we now have free laundry in our residence halls. We went to free laundry a couple of years ago. This is for a couple of reasons. One, we did not want students trying to save money by like trying to fit as much as they could or like holding off on doing laundry. We want them to be able to do as much laundry as they want. So it's free laundry. There's no reason they do need to bring their own detergent, but that's it. The other common transition is social anxiety, and we talked a little bit about that up front. The number one thing college students are most excited about is meeting new people. The number one thing new college students are most nervous about is meeting new people. So this is something we really try to do and work through with them by, if you've been in our cafeteria when it's at its typical seating, we actually have almost Harry Potter Hogwarts style tables where they're really long. So you're kind of never alone. Some students can take to-go boxes always and go back to their room and eat by themselves. But I guarantee you that any student approaches any group to sit with them, they are absolutely welcome. I think the lunchroom is one of the biggest social anxiety test points. We have one main one, and that's great. So students get a sense of who's in there and find their way. So those are some common transitions. Here's like a quick recommendation. How to approach this like a coach. So right, again, this escalator, they call, they text, like the first response is typically, let me help them answer this. Let me call Rosalie right away. Like we can figure this out. So here's just a couple of questions that may be helpful in your approach. It may not even be like anything you would say. So this is take it or leave it, right? Student calls you overwhelmed. upset, frustrated with the roommate, frustrated with their coach. They're not getting enough playing time. I'm frustrated with themselves because they haven't done as well as they wanted on exam, whatever the case. What is one thing you could do right now that would make a big difference? Try to have them focus on what is in their control and what is one thing that they can do right now. Sometimes you'll get there and you're like talking about all these different ideas. Well, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that, maybe I'll do this. Okay, help them exit the call or the text exchange with a plan. Of everything we've talked about, what feels most right to you? What do you think is the best decision for you to go forward, right? What are some of the benefits of that? Like if they're like, okay, I want to talk to my roommate because they ate all my Triscuits and that really made me mad. Like that's a real, right? That's a real conflict. Don't eat the Triscuits. So what are some of the benefits? What are some of the drawbacks? Sometimes students have social conflicts and they haven't said anything to anyone, right? So nobody knows they're upset. How would other people know that you're upset about this or that they pushed your buttons or that they hurt your feelings? That's sometimes just a really helpful reframing question. Sometimes it's like, they don't understand me or whatever the case is. What assumptions are being made about your behavior? What assumptions are you making about their behavior? And sometimes like, if you feel like it's Groundhog Day and I'm having the same conversation with my student about this, so sometimes I say, I might be wrong about this, but something I've observed is whatever you've observed. I'm wondering what you think about that. It seems like every time you hang out with Stephanie, you come home, upset about it or whatever the situation is. So those are just some of the ways that we try to work on how to help students up the escalator and not solve their problems. Oftentimes they have the solutions, right? And we do the same thing in our own lives, is that sometimes we just want to vent and sometimes we really want help. And oftentimes your student has the solution right inside of them. It's asking the right questions to help them identify that they have all the tools to do that. So super. Here's the end too, is that we understand this is an emotional roller coaster, especially in the last 2 years of what we've been through as a nation and as a globe. Take comfort that you have raised incredible young adults that are about to start college and are going to be with other wonderful young adults at the same time. Take comfort in the child you raised and take comfort in who they are going to be surrounded with. Again, I've been doing this over 20 years at 6 different institutions, and I can honestly say the Seton Hill students are exceptional. They are so kind and so compassionate. They hold the door for you. They say hello. It's a really great place to be. My level of conduct as far as like alcohol violations or anything like that is so low. It is unbelievable. So it's a really take comfort in where you are sending and who you have raised. Try to minimize, these are the best years of your life speeches, just a tip for, I'm just do that. Be prepared for anything. Be prepared that we may need to close. Be prepared that we may have a crazy snowstorm blizzard. Be prepared for any of those things. Kind of have a plan as a family of what would happen if your student needed to leave campus. We also understand this is a scary time. We're here to support you. Ask good questions, be a coach, be an anchor, and know that they miss you too. I can't reiterate that enough. A lot of times too, when I talk to young men, I'll say like, have you told your mom? When they're like, oh, man, I'm missing home. I like really miss my mom, or I miss my dog, or I miss whatever. I'm like, have you told them that? Nah, I don't want them to worry. I don't want Gran to worry about me. I don't want, like, oftentimes that's the approach. So I just want to share that with you all too. because I think it's important for you to know and for you to hear that. So this is what we're all aiming for. I know you've recently seen it on a high school level. These are, I missed them already. These are some of our fantastic seniors who have just graduated, but this is what we're working towards. Whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 years that we have together, this is a relationship for all of us. Again, I get to know the parents, I get to know you all. I appreciate everything that you all will do in the next couple of months and coming years to get your students ready. So I want to stop. Now I can see there has been some action in the chat because I can stop sharing my screen. Jen, if there's any questions or if folks have any questions or also want to add any tips to each other too. So let's see what we've got in there. Jen, take it away.
At the moment, we don't have any questions, but if you do have
I
any
can't hear it.
questions,
The page is stuck. Thanks. Everybody's telling me. Okay, perfect. So you added this stuff. So repost the screen that was 2 or 3 screens before. Are you talking about the one with the questions? The one with the questions. Somebody want the questions before that? The common transition issues. Yes. Let me get something up. And Jen, once I share my screen again, I'm not going to be able to see that. So if somebody puts up something, just tell me what I should do.
will do.
All right. I'm thinking it's probably this one.
Hi. No, I think it was the one after that one.
The one with the questions about being a coach.
That one. Yes, that's
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, don't apologize. I'm glad you find them helpful. I think, I kind of have like a book of questions, literally. I literally have a book of questions, but how do we, again, like you're probably finding the answers are within them. So how do we go ahead and help pull that out? Of that list, did you find one that you were most, like, what question do you think you're going to like pull out of your bag first? Do you have a favorite on there? No, that's okay. Perfect. Well, good. I'll leave that up for a couple more so you can get that. You can always take a picture of it too if you wanted.
Yep, I did. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome.
These will
So
be very helpful.
perfect. Is there an ATM? Oh, good. There's a whole bunch of questions that popped up. All right, I can see them now. So, is there an ATM on campus? Yes, there is an ATM on campus. It's right in the post office. It is with First Commonwealth Bank. However, we have made arrangements with First Commonwealth that ATM does not charge fees for any bank any ATM card that uses it. So if your bank charges you fees to use another ATM, that would happen. But First Commonwealth will not charge fees for that use of the ATM. So they happen to be the university's bank. That's why their ATM is there. But that's the case. Is it standard for freshmen to have 17 credits? It seems like a lot. So it kind of depends on their academic program. Sciences, music, education, absolutely tend to front load. But if we do the math about this, it takes about 120 credits. That's a minimum for students to graduate. Now we want them to graduate in 4 years, right? You're like, yes, I got my bill. 4 years, Rosalie, at the most. So that averages 30 credits a year, which comes out to 15 credits a semester. So for some of the students, 17 really is the way to go. Maybe next semester they take 12. It just depends on what's being offered. But and some of the programs are more than 120 credits. So that's super helpful. Do tri-rooms have a mini fridge in the room, and do they share a hallway bath? You missed the virtual tour of dorms. Oh, good question. Jen, you have an answer to that.
Yeah, so if you did miss the virtual tour, you
You're on
actually
mute.
can go. I am.
Or at least I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. If you missed our virtual tours, or if you missed any of the other virtual orientation sessions that you wanted to go to and weren't able to go to, you can actually go to our YouTube page, and I'll share that in the chat as well. But our YouTube page is Seton Hill Student Affairs, and there's a whole playlist with all of the previous virtual orientation sessions. So you can go to the playlist and click on the virtual tours, and that way you'd be able to see some of the dorms and what they look like.
Absolutely. So none of the rooms come with fridges to my knowledge. And I think that each of the larger rooms is going to be a little different. Some of the rooms have bath in, most of them are hall baths. So have your student, Kristen and Alan, for that question, have your student just reach out to Residence Life and find out like the exact setup of that room. So that's exciting. The tri-rooms are fun. Is it common for freshmen living on campus to bring their car? I would say 80% of our students bring their car from home. Parking is free, which is really rare. So a lot of students do bring it for internships, student teaching or other. I have had families as well say, okay, make a 3.0 and you can have your car in the spring. So it just kind of depends on your family, what you're comfortable with, how comfortable a student is maybe driving in the snow. Some students come from Oregon, California, Texas, Florida, like it is not something that they are used to. So it's really up to each student and their family about having a car on campus. Our shuttle does take students to Walmart and to the mall on the weekends. Saturday is usually Walmart, Sunday is mall, or vice versa. And usually they just like partner up with someone on the hall, like, hey, I'm going to Walmart. Anybody want to come? Hey, I'm running here. Anybody want to come? So that can happen as well. So good question. Is there a pharmacy on campus for students to get prescriptions? Yes and no. So our nurse practitioner can write prescriptions, and we do work with a local pharmacy for delivery. So we do not have a full pharmacy where we dispense the medication, but if they get the prescription through the institution with us, or if a student just brings us prescription, we can work with Hayden's to have them deliver it to campus, and they deliver to us as often as needed. They're great. So good question for that. Questions about homecoming weekend. So I'll be honest, this is the students' weekend. So parents, beware, they may or may not want you there. Letitia, I'm not sure if as a student, if you wanted your parents there or not, but homecoming weekend is an exciting weekend. We welcome everyone to the Hill. I want to pull up the exact date. It's like the second or third weekend in October. I think it's 15 and 6. Yes, it's the weekend of October 15 and 16. We have our football. We play Gannon that weekend at 4 p.m. Of course, almost all of our other sports that are playing are away. So men's soccer is at Slippery Rock, women's soccer is at Edinboro, field hockey is at Westchester, women's soccer is at Slippery Rock. We hate when that happens, but we don't always get to pick it. It's just kind of the way the draw happens. So we are playing football versus Gannon at 4, and we will have a whole weekend of events. So yeah, that's a little bit about homecoming weekend, and we welcome you for that. We'll do red and gold throughout the week. We do Oktoberfest celebration. We do door decorating. We do a talent show. We do a pep rally. Homecoming actually is really fun for us. So I'm glad you guys asked about that. So good question. Yes, Hunter's Pharmacy. Yes. Did I say Hayden's? Hayden's and Hunter's both deliver. So good. Petrozzi family, you must have another student with us. Is that the case? That's exciting. I thought I recognized your last name too. That's fun. Does Seton Hill Starbucks take the Starbucks gift cards? That is a really important question. I do not believe we do. We are not a true Starbucks outlet. We just brew and make Starbucks coffee. So good question. But your students will appreciate if I mention that a Chipotle is very close by, a Subway, there's lots of pizza in the area. Domino's comes by frequently. Those are gift cards that students like. If they choose to go to Chick-fil-A, I know there's some folks have different views on, patronizing and going there. But yeah, but those are some of the very popular places for our students. Does the shuttle go to the train station? No, it goes like 50 feet from it. So if you know where our arts building is, and where the, there's a stop at each of our arts buildings downtown. And then there's also a stop at the other building at the base of the hill downtown. You may have noticed it if you came to tour campus. You would go up the hill to campus, and then the other way is a tall building with a large parking lot. They stop at all three of those locations. The train station is in between the large parking lot and one of our arts buildings. So it's very close. And they could get their bag up there, no problem. Campus police would probably also take them there. Can the nurse practitioner contact a student's doctor, and then send them to the pharmacy on campus? We would have to have a release of information. It's a good question. The doctor should be able to give the prescription to the student. We typically don't reach out to doctors unless a doctor has sent us information, but you can certainly talk to the health services, talk to the nurse, and see when we do that.
I was asking because the meds that my daughter takes, he doesn't give us the script in writing. It's a controlled thing.
Yep.
And he sends it directly to the pharmacy. So would he or she, would they be able to send it directly to the pharmacy on campus, or is that not possible?
Yeah, to be delivered to the student. I see what you're saying. Sandra, I'm gonna reach out about that. I'm using a little post-it note, and I'm gonna write down your info. Let me find out the best plan of action. I do believe that the doctor can call our nurse, authorizing the script, and then the nurse can authorize it with the pharmacy and have it delivered. Our nurses also administer different shots and different things as well. So let me find out some information and probably put you directly in touch with our nurse practitioner so she can work exactly on what you need for your student.
That's great, because we were just talking about that, figuring like, are we going to have to request like a couple of months, for like however long the semester is, that many months supply, and then give it to her before she leaves so she has it with her, or like, that's how we were trying to figure out. We were talking about the other day, and I was like, how is that going to work? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with students through that and families, so no problem. Let me get you in touch with the nurse, and then you and your student and your home physician and our nurse can all work together on that. So no problem. Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Great question. Okay, you did not have a homecoming. We're gonna need to make up for that. Okay, you're gonna need to come to homecoming. Are there events on Sunday of homecoming? Usually just mass in the morning. We tend to allow folk, that travel home. So that schedule should be released, I would say, by the start of school. So be on the lookout for that on the Seton Hill website for a draft schedule of homecoming. I will let them know the parents are interested in the homecoming schedule. That's exciting. I'm glad you want to come to campus, see your kiddos. Just remember, you're going to have to take them to eat. It's just the way it goes. Fill the fridge, take them to eat, get a good hug in, and that'll be fun. Oh, you used to work there. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Do you need a printer in their room? Do not waste your money. Do not buy a printer. There are printers like at every corner. It's kind of wild. And one of the great things about our laptops and all having the same technology is that literally wherever a student is near, they can just go to print and drop down, and all of the printers that are like nearby them show up. They can even like print it somewhere else and like be like, okay, I'm going to be walking by there in 10 minutes. Let me print it to McKenna and I'll go walk and get it there. Printing is not an issue. If they're like super procrastinators, that's one thing, but there is no need really for a printer. I don't I don't know any students that have one. There's got to be a few, but I just don't know any of them. So that's a scoop on that. And there are printers in the halls. There are printers in the residence halls. There's printers by dining. There's printers everywhere. There's printers by the academic, right, Jen? I mean, Jen's laughing because she's like, it's crazy. There are printers everywhere. So are there freshman orientation events the weekend they move in? Yes. We want them to do the thing they're most excited about and most nervous about, which is meeting new people. We also want them to learn some of the rules. They also will start connections class. So they actually will start their first academic class, which is connections, that weekend. So they have their first class meeting on Friday, their second class meeting on Saturday, and their third class meeting on Sunday. We do this to kind of start them getting into an academic environment. Also, this class then ends before Thanksgiving. So when they come back from Thanksgiving break, they will have completed their first academic course. It's a 1-credit course, and they will not have to worry about a final exam or anything in that class. So Connections starts during orientation, ends before Thanksgiving, and it is a big adjustment there. So the weekend events really start Friday at about 2:30. I would say there is a couple of optional meetings before students that are first generation, first in their family to go to school. We have a transfer student meeting at 1. Jen, have we sent out the schedule to the students yet, or?
The schedule has not been finalized all the way yet, so that's hopefully coming in the next week or two. So again, be on your lookout for your emails. We'll get that out as soon as we can.
Perfect. That's super exciting. Also, if you move in, there may be some students that help folks move. So they may be available. All of a sudden, like the football team descends on your car and like all your bags are like up in the fridge and the TV. It is wild. All of a sudden it's all gone. With that said, please try to label your belongings. So like I put all my bedding in trash bags, right? Like, cause you're just going to put it on the bed and be done with it. So just like write Carpenter, Havey 205, or just Havey 205, because all of a sudden there's like 6 trash bags going in one place. And so we just want to make sure everybody gets their stuff. So just kind of do yourself a favor and put some labels on some things that are not clearly easy to identify if folks help you out of there. If students have classes, art classes, can they park or take a shuttle? So there is that parking lot I mentioned at the bottom of the hill. Many students actually do walk, and then most students take the shuttle. To get to your car, to then drive it down to the hill, to then drive back and get another spot back on main campus may take more time, but they certainly can go down and park at what we call 131. It's 131. That's the address. So we just call it 131 building. But most students do take the shuttle or walk. It's much more convenient. They get nervous that they're going to be late, and then the shuttle hits the rhythm and they're fine and they get used to that. But good question. Is there a parents' weekend, or is that part of homecoming weekend? We have not formally had a parents' weekend at Seton Hill for a long time. Parents come often that we just didn't have a special weekend. So yeah, homecoming can serve as part of that. We do try to have activities for like little siblings or for alum that come back with children. So that does kind of serve as that. Oh, and that's the next question. Is there a siblings weekend? Yes, that kind of serves as the same weekend. Also happy to host those over 16. But it's really interesting, even going into this year, is that, large scale events with a lot of guests from all over is not something we just want to be cautious about the planning of that, depending on where we are. So really move-in weekend and homecoming are the two that we're planning on, and commencement, of course, being in person. But the rest of some of those things, we just are cautious in planning with large scale homecoming. But those are good questions. Yes, I can send you the same information, Jessica, about Scripps and connect you to the nurse practitioner. Absolutely. How does move-in day work? We know the date, but want to plan the timing. Good question. Have your students stay close to their Seton Hill email. If they have not, which I thought they did, they will receive an email about the logistics of their move-in time. Because again, we want students to be able to bring guests for move-in. So we're trying to spread out move-in into more hours. So there aren't like 100 people in a hall, to allow folks to kind of come and be able to be spread out. So Monica, just hold tight on that. The Office of Residence Life should be sending that out. And then we'd be able to check on that for you. So Res Life should be able to send that out as well. Move-in times. Let me make a note of that. Perfect. Good question. Nearest airport, Pittsburgh. So there's also another airport in Latrobe. Latrobe has Spirit and they fly to a couple locations. So if you're in Florida or going to Florida, they do Orlando, they do Fort Lauderdale, they do Myrtle Beach often. They sometimes offer a couple different routes too. So depending on where you're going, Latrobe could be closer. There it is. And is there a shuttle from campus? No, there is not a shuttle from campus into the city. We're pretty close to a bus depot. So if students want to bus into the city, they can do that. We do a lot of trips into the city for different things. We've gone to see a Pirates game. We went to the Pittsburgh Zoo. We did a museum crawl. So sometimes we do special events where students go into the city, but we don't have a shuttle that runs there often. So airport trips would take some coordination. Oftentimes a friend takes them or someone who's going, if they're going over a break, if someone lives over in Pittsburgh, and they'll drop them off in that way. So good question. Will masks be required indoors? Masks are required for folks that are not vaccinated. Any students that submitted a waiver for medical or religious reasons. So that's who masks are required for indoors right now. Anything can change at any point in time, but that's where we are based on the CDC guidelines for unvaccinated folks. Like if you live in TA or in Westmoreland County, that's been the approach that has been taken here. So good question. Is there a fee to use the printers? No, you've paid your fees. You've paid them. The printers are free for students. They have like a certain page quota. I don't think anyone really gets near it. If for some reason they need more print quota, they just go to IT and they increase their print quota. So it's not a problem there for that. I believe my daughter's moving in on Saturday. We'll look to Res Life. I mean, I think Thursday and Friday are the primary days for new students. However, if they are in a different building or if they're a transfer student, they may be coming in on Saturday, but all new students should be here Thursday or Friday. So if that is not the case, if that is not the information you got in your email, definitely contact Res Life. That's a good question. And you guys are listening. That is awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Are there many off-campus events for students where there may be a cost? Good question. If we do things like going to the Pirates game, or last year we went to Seven Springs, we did tubing. We rented out Seven Springs tubing. That was really fun. It's been a nominal like $5. Part of it is just to get their buy-in, or else they'll sign up for free and then maybe they don't want to come when they have to wake up at 9 in the morning. So it's usually a nominal fee, but so yeah, very nominal, 5 or 10. I think the most expensive trip we had done was to Washington, DC a couple of years ago, and it was like $15 for students, just because the bus was a little more expensive, but the students wanted to do that. So good. Okay, so someone messaged their daughter did get your day and time slot for move-in. So ask your students to check their Seton Hill emails. We know how good they are at that sometimes. It's like, oh, I get all this. So ask them to go in and check their email from residents. They may have information in there. Good. So a couple of you have gotten that. Good stuff. Good questions. Is there a recommended hotel nearby, close to school and offers a school discount? Oh, I'm gonna forget some of them, but yes, if you just do hotels in Greensburg, just let them know when you call with Seton Hill. Oftentimes they do have Seton Hill discounts. So there is a Holiday Inn, there is a Marriott. Those are the two that come to mind quickly in Greensburg. Out towards Latrobe, again by the airport, there are several other ones as well. So just do your searching for Greensburg Hotel, and when you call, tell them you're a Seton Hill parent and see if they have a discount. A lot of them do offer that. So very smart and savvy. Good questions. Yep. Is Kennywood still a thing? I think it depends on who you ask. For some of those students, it's Kennywood's tradition. And for those of you that are not from the area, like, what's Kennywood? Kennywood's like this fun amusement park. Some of our students work there. They make money and work there. We have not done a trip to Kennywood. I think they have a Halloween thing that the programming board was looking at one point. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it just says, hey guys, let's do this. And then everybody kind of jumps in there. So, yes, if your daughter's moving in on Sunday, August 15th, they are probably an athlete. Is that correct? Yeah. So fall sport athletes, football's coming back the 8th. Our other fall sport athletes, volleyball, women's soccer, field hockey, men's soccer, cross country, all come in the 15th. So they'll be back running, sweating, and doing all their stuff, getting ready, conditioning. So that's when I get super excited. So some other students that move in early can be RAs, orientation leaders. Again, this programming board I keep mentioning, they do such fun stuff. So they're bringing a magician to campus one night. There's also a place called Statler's local that's like a go-kart mini golf place. So we have rented that place for the Saturday evening of move-in weekend for all the first year students to go there. So we'll bus them there. We'll have snacks there. The orientation leaders, staff will be there. I'll be at Statler's riding a go-kart. So we just kind of all do these things together for students. So that will be like the first Saturday night. So all those students will be moving in a little bit earlier. The lacrosse team also moves in early. Men's lacrosse, typically they help with move in. We appreciate them very much so. And then there was another question that came in. If my student is off campus with friends and ends up in a situation where they don't feel safe riding back due to drinking or anything like that, what can they do for help? It's a great question. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of move-in weekend, we have I mentioned a lot of fun activities, but we also have several sessions. Hi, I'm here to help you. And we have different sessions like that where we start to teach them about campus resources. One of the first phone numbers they put in their phone is the phone number for campus police. Our campus police is here 24/7, 365. They're one of the few folks that cannot work from home, right? Even when no one was on campus, campus police was still here, was still in our facility. It's along with the boiler, the folks that oversee the boiler, and our grounds and maintenance crew. They are the ones there. So yes, they call campus police. Campus police will mobilize and either go get them, or the residence life staff is also on call. Even if the student's a commuter, we're going to go help the student. The biggest and hardest thing for students in that moment is to ask for help. So the person who sent this, the fact that your student is already asking those questions is fantastic. And it shows a lot of courage and forethought. So absolutely. If they live on campus, the other number they'll put in their phone really quickly is their RA or the RA on call. I can honestly say that our team is fantastic. We take students, we get students where they need. I mean, I told you I went with a student to open a bank account last week, 2 weeks ago. We just do what it takes to help them in these situations. And if they're not feeling safe, they can call. The other thing that I want to mention that we do at Seton Hill is that we have an amnesty policy. And I think, sometimes we have all these overachieving students. They want to go to medical school. They're student athletes. They want to go to law school. They want to be in the FBI. And I don't want to get in trouble because it's on my record. It's really important to know that our priority is the health and safety of our community, first and foremost. So if your student or any student is ever in a situation where they had too much to drink, or a friend did, or something is going on and they're afraid to get help because they're afraid to get in trouble, we have amnesty policy where if a student reaches out for help, there are no questions asked. We may talk to them after about, hey, what happened? And you know, those coaching questions. What's one thing you could do differently next time? Like those kinds of things. But it's not about getting students in trouble. It's about helping them do the right thing and not fearing the system. So really good question, important question. The RA, campus police, the RA on call, even if they are a commuter, campus police, and somebody will assist them. Jen did a really nice job being asked there. So there is some information there. Is Seton Hill still a dry campus? So no, Seton Hill does allow alcohol for students that are 21 and over. So students can have alcohol in their rooms. I can honestly say in the years I've been here, the most alcohol violations we have had in 1 year is 19. I've worked at other schools where we may have 19 a weekend. So I'm not saying that some of you are nodding like, yeah. I'm not saying that our students do not drink alcohol or do not go out to parties or do not socialize in that way, but somehow, some way they do so in ways that are responsible. We also don't have students come back vandalizing. If you've been to campus and you've toured campus, residence halls are attached to the main building where we are. We've never had vandalism or bulletin boards ripped down. Like sometimes in the halls we have some of that, but it's very, very rare. But still, if something happens and someone's in need, please do this. And we do allow alcohol for students 21 and over. Man, you guys lit up the chat box with really good questions. These are good. I have my Post-it note of homework. Follow up on move-in times to make sure all were sent to students. And those of you that have had mixed, yeah, we got them, no, we didn't. Have your student check their email just in case. Getting a draft of the homecoming schedule up was really important. And then connecting both of those parents, Sandra and Jessica, to our nurse practitioner. And thinking about bringing a family weekend and a little Sibs weekend post-COVID, that would be a lot of fun. I would love to do that. You guys are a genius. Other things, and any parents who have done this before, if you want to speak up about, you know, how you've done this transition with your student, things that you've learned, good gift cards, like what makes them, you know, open the mail, all that kind of stuff. Are you able to get a move-in time change? More than likely. We try to be accommodating. I don't want everybody right. Yeah. Go ahead and call the Residence Life office. Jen, can you put that in? I think the email is just Res Life, RES Life at setonhill.edu. But if you want to call, you can talk and they can work that. They were assigned just based on trying to space people out for, you know, just for safety, to not have everybody moving in on the floor at the same time. So I'm sure that we can make adjustments if we have, if you have the need. So we try to do that. We answer our phones. We do all those kinds of things. Anything else? I realize we are after 7. Thank you for such good questions. I hope this was helpful. And I look forward to meeting you. I will be around move-in weekend. If you see me, please come and say hello. I love what I do. It is a pleasure and an honor to serve your students in this way. I could not be more proud to be part of the Seton Hill family. You all have made a really good decision. It won't always be easy for your student, and it won't always be easy for you. I know that. And we're here for you for whatever you need. Just want your student to be happy and successful, to be challenged along the way too. But whatever we can do in this mutual relationship, I look forward to that. Oh, last good question. The bookstore on August 15th. That's a Sunday. They're probably not open on Sunday, but they would be open on Monday. The That's a good question. So that's great. So yeah. I'm so glad you feel that way. And I hope I'm saying your name right, Letitia, as far as being a family. We pride ourselves on that. So please come up and say hi. I want to thank Jen for all of her assistance too. I'm sorry my video didn't work and I appreciate her texting me so we didn't go through that situation, but you guys are great. I appreciate the time and effort. I'll stay on for a few more minutes too if folks want to pop things in the chat or just ask a question. Jen, anything you have to wrap us up for the recording officially?
I do. First of all, I want to thank Rosalie so much for taking the time to talk to you all and present her tips about transitioning, as well as answering all the wonderful questions that you have. We really appreciate when you all are engaging and you ask really great questions. So thank you so much for that. To kind of wrap us up, I want to highlight some of the upcoming virtual orientation events that your students can still attend. As I said, this is number 23 right now, but we still have 5 more virtual orientation events to go. So these can either be built on the Road to the Hill website, which is roadtothehill.setonhill.edu, or all of your students should have gotten a flyer as well that includes these dates. The next virtual orientation event is Monday, August 2nd at 6 p.m. and this is called Acing Your Academics. As we've been saying, we really are a family at Seton Hill and your students are not alone in navigating their educational process. So staff members from the Academic Enrichment and Support Center will be discussing various aspects of what they do, such as the Writing Center, the Mathematics Enrichment Center, Academic Achievement Center, the TRIO Student Support Services, and the Opportunity Program. So that will be a really nice program to check out. On Thursday, August 5th at 6 p.m., we have our Campus Spotlight Tour. So this will be a virtual tour of campus that will cover many important and high traffic areas that are on our campus. So spaces for socializing, studying, fitness, dining, and more will be covered in that session. And then on Monday, August 9th at 6 p.m., we have our final Griffin gathering. And this is a time for incoming students to socialize and meet other students who are going to be a part of the incoming class. This Zoom event is basically like online speed dating style conversations where you get to make connections briefly with multiple students within the hour while bouncing in and out of breakout rooms. So there are a lot of great events coming up. And our final event is on August 10th at 6 p.m. And that's our preparing for the next step session. So definitely check those out. Encourage your students to attend. Not only will they get great information, but they'll also get to meet some of their incoming class too. Again, I want to thank Rosalie so much for everything that she's done tonight. And with that, I'll turn off the recording.